Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Penda James, and I am a scribe coach. I'm the owner of Inscribed Inspiration, and what I do is I assist leaders in transition to get unstuck, execute their goals, and inscribe their legacy. What you are watching is the Resilience Project. This is an opportunity for me to talk to at least 100 people that I care about. What I'm doing is gathering tools for resilience, for leaders. I want us to remember why we are resilient. When we feel like we've forgotten or when the weight of the world feels heavy, we can always come back to these sacred conversations and really remember what God said about us. Today, I am speaking to Shavonne Cammack. Did I say that
You
correctly?
did.
I did. Okay. I've only known Shavonne for a few weeks. I do feel like I've known her forever, though. And we're working on a project together. And in my hearing of her heart and her passion for gathering together with family, I wanted to introduce my friend to my friends so that we can all do great work in the kingdom. And Shavonne is a mom, she's a wife, she's a business owner, she's really a social media influencer around food. I
Oh,
don't know if she would admit that, but I would say that's true of her. And she really has a heart for people and for drawing people together. So, with that said, Shavonne, is there something that I did not say about you that you want the world to know?
oh my goodness. I am humbled. First and foremost, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
don't I don't even know how to follow up such an introduction about myself. That was
Get used to
wonderful.
it. You're about to be on big stages, so
Thank
you're
you
welcome.
so much, Penda. Everything that you said, you hit it spot on. Some of it, I'm still learning how to receive it all. However, I do. And I think you covered it most. And first and foremost, I like to say that I am you. I am human. I am a woman. I am a Black woman. I'm a mother, a wife, a friend, a sister, a coworker, a student of all things great. I am a child. Yeah, I'm all of the things.
You're all the things.
All
Mrs.
the
Kev
things.
on stage says that, and I love that so much. I'm all the
I'm
things.
all the things.
I love it. I love it so much. So, our declaration that we're going to be discussing today is special. It's unique, and it may not make sense to people, but you will unpack it for us as we're going along. So, the declaration I want to just put it on the table right now is I have a lifeline. So, can you share with us what it means? Give us a definition for what it means to have a lifeline.
Okay. Immediately when I hear the word lifeline, without unpacking it, we'll get there. But when I hear lifeline, immediately I think village.
Mm.
For me, a village is everything. Um, I'm an 80s baby. So, everything that happened in the 80s, that stuff is real. I'm a product of that generation. My parents were teenagers when I was conceived and, growing up. So I was raised by a village of people, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, and some of which were not actually blood related to me,
Yeah.
right? So I grew up being raised by a village of people. So when I hear the word lifeline, I immediately think about that village because those were the people that were there for me, cared for me, saved me, helped me, groomed me, taught me lessons, did all of these things. And so as I transitioned into young adulthood, I knew the importance of creating and cultivating my own village. And because I was raised the way that I was, I knew that my village did not have to be consumed of people that were biologically related to me. It
Mm.
was people who could serve whatever my needs were at the time. And I also understood that my lifeline, my village, was ever changing because we're always growing, right?
Yes.
You can't get stuck or just so complacent and committed to the village that is no longer with you at the path that you're on presently. So we always have a love and nurture to reach back to our initial village, but we also have to foster the new things as we transcend and grow into different roles and things like that about life. So when I hear lifeline, I hear all of that stuff.
Yeah, me too. And you also have a unique and a special lifeline. Do you want to talk about that?
I have several.
Okay.
Tell me which one you're honing in on, and then I'll
You
jump on
just
that one.
you just be led by the spirit. Can you
Okay.
so let me reframe the question. Can you give us an example of some of the lifelines that God has given you to support other people?
Oh gosh, absolutely. I will jump right into one that I'm fostering right now because, like Penda said, I am in the midst of writing a book. Um, Initially, I called it a non-cookbook cookbook per se, um, but food gathering, intentional togetherness. Those are lifelines because on purpose, I'm bringing together a group of people on purpose to serve whatever need that I may need at the time. But it branches out to different lifelines that other people that are part of my village need. We're pouring into each other and we don't even know that we're doing that.
Yes.
So I think we're getting everybody together because I need some nurturing, I need some loving, and I'm intentionally putting these groups of people together surrounded by this meal. We're intentionally communicating with one another because everybody plays a part in the meal preparation. So who needs to buy which ingredients, who's making what, who's running to the grocery store, what time things begin. We're communicating over and over again, and that's a part of it. But it's this village of people working together intentionally for this greater purpose, right? So typically when I do that, I like to group two people together that maybe don't communicate often. Two family members that maybe haven't spoken in years, right? Okay, time to get them to cook that macaroni and cheese together. It's time to get this village back where it needs to be to serve me because I'm selfish in that respect. I need my village to do what I needed to do for me, but at the same time, I'm healing other people also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was thinking about a lot of, we never, like now they make kitchens where you can sit in the kitchen while the chef or the cook is cooking. We grew up in, a small little kitchen where it was like, okay, it's just room for me and the pots. You go in there and vacuum. Well, at least that's how it was for me. There wasn't a lot of room for me to sit in the kitchen with my mom while she was cooking until I got a little bit older and we moved to a different house. And so I love how houses and communities are changing to bring back the village and the community. Like I often think about in Africa, them sitting around the fire, and India and cooking the rice and all those things. And so I love that's what you do. Did you always know how to cook?
No. Um, no, it wasn't. I wish I had this grand story about someone sitting me down and teaching me things, but no. I knew the basics as a child, how to scramble eggs, things like that. And I took a home economics class, right? They don't even offer those classes anymore where you make aprons and make little things and learn about measurements. I really just took a liking to it. But I often say for me and my journey, it's less about the actual meal that I'm making, and it's more about the intentional preparation that goes into it. So when I was in undergraduate school, I was a broke person. I was broke. And so I applied for food stamps like most people do when you're in college or you're young. And with that, I couldn't afford to order pizza and had that.
Oh,
I couldn't afford to go out to dinner and things like that. But before I knew it, this village of my college friends of us, I was feeding my village this way. I was learning new things and new recipes and creating meals out of the limited food supply that we had. So just over time, it just got better and better and better. But even some of the worst meals were delicious because it's all that we had. And there was so much love and intent that went into it. So to answer the initial question, there was no um, huge lesson that was taught to me about how to cook.
mm,
It just naturally, it just came. This kind of goes with this. This tastes good with this. I don't really like that, but they do. How can I make this work for the both of us? And that's where everything was birthed from. And years after that, I became a mother. So it transitioned to, okay, I have little people who I have to feed.
Yes. Yes, I can make simple dishes, but I think up until really I met you and we started having these conversations, there was a shame for me surrounded by not really being able to know certain dishes or know how to cook. You
Mhm.
know, I was the oldest child, so I was out when people were coming up because my mom could make a meal out of a can of beans and a box of cake mix or something, you know, a six
Yeah.
at her funeral, they talked about how when they were in college and they would go and mommy would make everybody's food. I didn't get that gift.
Mm.
So I'm proud of being able to like help her by making sure the house was clean. So that's how I helped my family here. So, but there was a shame, and I didn't realize that until we started talking about how food brings us together. That I had a shame that I never really dealt with about not being able to cook like that.
Really?
Yes. I didn't tell you that when we were talking the other day that I
Wow.
was thinking about that like because a lot of especially because I'm in, you know, I'm married to the pastor of the church and that's the first thing that the women asked me, "What did you cook today?" Yes. Or what do you cook? Or what do you do? Are you baking? No, I don't do that. I don't, I can watch, show you how to wash the windows with the newspaper and the Windex, you know,
Sure.
but I don't cook. And so when we started talking, I was like, man, this is opening up something in me that I didn't realize. So I think what you're doing is going to help so many people who understand the value of having this lifeline around food. You know, we talk about even during this season when we can't get together. I've seen even on Zoom where families are having dinner together. You know, you see those commercials where they're like making cookies together. So I think that's an awesome lifeline that you bring up for us to think about.
It is so wonderful. And I think that there is this very strange, um, kind of a and I don't agree with it, but there is this very strange thing where people assume if you're a wife or if you're a mother, you automatically know how to
Yes.
just and I think the same thing with teaching, right? And I tell people all the time, I'm not a teacher. I rely heavily on my children's educators to do all of those things. I can help out, but I can't teach. That's not my gift.
Yeah.
Um, Same thing with cooking. There should be no shame because it is a skill. And just like playing piano by ear, some people play it by ear, some people have to practice and learn. Exact same thing with cooking. But if we create that safe space for people, not just women, but for people in general to say, I wasn't really born with the cooking gene. However, I can read.
Yeah. It's interesting because my younger cousin, he's a chef now, and he said it was because he sat in the kitchen watching my grandmother cook, and I sat in the kitchen and watched her cook.
It
it,
just didn't.
it
Yeah.
just it wasn't, you know. So this is so awesome. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. How so we kind of answered this a little bit. How having a lifeline has been a thread throughout your life. So you talked about college, and you talked about, you know, being a mom. Are there other areas of your life where food has become restorative
Oh
for the people
gosh.
around you?
Absolutely. So, just recently, I have two kids. I have a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old. My daughter is 14 and my son is 7. And about 2.5 years ago, as she transitioned into puberty, we just started to notice different personality traits. Like she was a little more reclusive. She's always been quiet. She's not a talker, and that's fine. You know, I've always told her not everyone is loud and boisterous and outgoing, and that's fine. However, it was just a darker side of her that we started to see. So naturally, we began to seek out counselors and therapists to figure out what's going on. And there were some mental health issues that were identified. And immediately we were thrust into a life that we knew nothing about, the mental health systems. And we live in Alabama, in the state of Alabama. So by I'm a researcher by nature. I typically don't really like to have conversations about things at that magnitude that I haven't educated myself about. I want to make sure I have everything that I need. But in that moment, we're talking about my kid and we want to figure out what's going on. So we
Yeah.
were thrust into that, and immediately they're like, we're going to put her on these medications. They wanted to actually commit her to an inpatient facility, or what we typically would say, like the crazy house. I
Yeah.
don't like that term, but people understand it, right?
Yeah.
And as a mother, you're sitting there, you have tears in your eyes. This is your little girl, your baby, and you know not knowing what's the best. Like, is that the best thing to do? If it is, I'm scared, but I don't want to let my fear or lack of education about it prevent her from getting what she needs. And
Yes.
they're like, hey, you don't want her to go, sign this. And you'll say, she doesn't have to go, but if something happens, it's not
On
our,
us.
yeah. And I'm like, wow, I'm looking in that moment, I'm looking for that lifeline. I'm looking for someone else that looks like me, that can look at me and almost hear my heart and my soul. And then I'm looking at my child who relies on me. What do I do? Your kids have a headache? Okay, give them a little Tylenol. We know these things, but this was something that we knew nothing about. Sorry, that's somebody's cell phone. Can you still hear me? Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So um, we ended up saying we don't want to go that route. We're going to try some different things. We're going to get her hooked up with different therapists and counselors. And if medication is what she needs, okay, that's fine. We'll educate ourselves and we'll test it out. But in the midst of that, this is still a little kid. At
Yeah.
this point, she's 13 and a half. This is still a child. So she was still getting adjusted to the medication, getting adjusted to therapy, going to the doctors. All of these things are happening, right? And now she's about going to high school. We're
Yeah.
transitioning. But the one thing that was constant in a world of chaos at this point, our lives are turned upside down. The one thing that was constant would keep her mood level. She was the kid that I knew was having that home cooked meal at the kitchen table.
Mm.
That 30 minutes out of every day, that's what she wanted. She was clear about it. She would eat it. We would have family meals. We may not talk. She may not want to talk, but I knew that that was constant. And so that was another lifeline that worked well for us. And it still does to this day as we navigated this completely unknown water with mental health and with Black teenagers, specifically
Yes.
Black kids. But that lifeline, that village, that's what it was at that point for us.
And first, I want to say thank you for sharing that. I know that it's not easy to talk about your family, and this is a public setting. So thank you. I'm getting a little emotional. So thank you so much for sharing your heart. And my heart is with you and with your daughter. And I'm so grateful that you have that lifeline of food. And it made me, as you were talking, think about this movie that I love called Like Water for Chocolate.
I've seen the advertisements for that years ago, but I've never seen it.
I would admonish you to watch it. And anybody who's watching, I would suggest that you watch it. In college, I took a class and it was all about, getting to know different cultures and everything. And so I had to read the book and I had to watch the movie. But it's all about how this young girl, whenever she cooks, whatever she feels is in the food.
Mm.
And so there's this one scene, this is a spoiler alert. There's this one scene where her the love of her life marries her sister because her mother won't allow her to get married. She's like, you're the youngest, you have to stay home with me. And so to be close to her, he asked to marry her sister so he could stay close to her. And so she cried into the cake batter. And when it was the reception time, people started to yearn for their first loves. And so it was just such a powerful um, demonstration of how whoever is putting their hand into the food, like, you're praying and you're singing and, you're dancing, you're doing all these things and you're pouring it all into whatever you're making. So when we all sit down at the table to commune together, that's what you put into the food, and we're eating your heart basically. And so I love that. I love that. I never until we started talking about this food and coming together intentionally, how is healing. Like you said, even family members that don't really get along with each other, when they sit down and eat that, macaroni and cheese or whatever we're having together, it's like healing. It's a healing salve. And
It is.
so I'm so grateful for you for what you're doing. Is there something that you want, there's a leader out there that's watching this right now, and he or she, they know that they have a lifeline, but they don't really recognize how powerful it is. Something as simple as making a meal is life saving, life changing. So could you look at a leader and looking at your camera and say to them, give them some tools about using their lifeline?
Can I alter that just a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah.
Okay. So maybe not a leader per se. Um, I would tell a mother in the throes of trying to figure it out,
Mm,
don't give up on unconventional ways of connecting with your child who is in the middle of a crisis.
mm,
Don't don't ignore the things that seem so minor because it could really be one of the keys to really help you push through. So it may not be a meal, it may be a walk, it may be a drive, it may be the two of you texting your deepest thoughts to one another, even though you're in the same room or in the same house. Um, and don't think that you are the only. I know that's a cliche; people hear it all the time. Don't think that you're the only person, but you're actually not. It's probably your neighbor. It's probably every other student that is in school with your kids. Um, and I would also like to share two things. The first thing is give yourself and your child some grace.
mm.
Just take a step back, look at the situation, the totality of it, give yourself some grace because it's hard. It is hard. And it's okay with you accepting that it's hard. That doesn't mean you can't get through it. You just have to accept that it is hard and push through it and give yourself a break. Don't be so hard on yourself. Peel the layer back when you inter, interact with everyone. I always approach every single person that I meet, no matter who you are, no matter how I know you, I always have the first layer peeled back because everybody has something going on. Everybody. Nobody is perfect. So if you approach everyone already knowing that they got some stuff going on, just like I do, we're human. So let's now connect for whatever reason we're supposed to connect. Because if I already know it in my mind that you have some stuff that's jacked up in your life or you're working through or whatever, and you know that I do too, it helps us look at each other as humans, imperfect humans. And we apply that to our kids as well.
Moms are leaders.
Moms are so rock star. I'm
Moms are
serious.
leaders. Yes, moms are leaders. And so thank you for taking that spin on it. It really shows me the niche of what the ministry is that's birthing out of you. So you and I will discuss that a little bit later, but um I just want you to come back and I want you to listen to yourself. I want you to hear the wisdom that you're pouring out for leaders, moms, and for those of you who are watching, I just want to thank you for listening to this sacred conversation. We've talked about a lot of things, so I hope that you were recording them in your journal. If not, go back and listen because Shavonne shared some very powerful things for us to think about. And food is important. And I guess the biggest thing I take away from this is there's no shame. There should be no shame in me not knowing how to cook the way everybody else does because I had a role in the family. But when I sit down to commune with, my husband, since I can't get to my daddy right now, when they pour their heart into their food for us, You know, it tastes a little bit different when you know that.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It tastes so different. So, can you tell us, Shavonne, how to connect with you? I know people may want to connect with you. We didn't talk about your Instagram channel, how you share some of your photos of your dishes and things like that. But if you like to let people know how they can follow you on IG and stay connected to you if they want to learn, like I am learning.
Oh, wow. This is when I say I am humble, there's no sarcasm. Like, this is amazing. Like, amazing. To even to feel like, hey, you guys want to connect with me seems so foreign because okay, hey. But my Instagram is cooking with ease, and that's EZZ. And yeah, you can find everything about cooking with ease and the upcoming book and things that I'm working on right there on that Instagram. And then from there, obviously, it bridges to my more personal pages, which I'm open to as well. But once you find cooking with ease, you'll be able to find everything else associated with me.
So, can you say your declaration one more time for us?
What is it, Penda? We said like a million things.
Your declaration for today, I have a lifeline.
Okay. My declaration for today is that I have a lifeline. I have a village.
Yes, you do. So thank you for sharing your heart with us today. Thank you all for watching. I love you so much.